15 up.
Welcome to the service game, where we serve you and serve starts the story. I'm your host, IVJ, and in today's episode, I will be talking about what it means for Jannik Sinner after winning the Golden Swing, as well as the Charleston 500 tournaments on the women's side, and 2 matches that I think are worth looking back on. So yeah, let's just get right into today's episode. Welcome to The Toss, where we discuss the tennis news that took place off the court. So I think the main news I want to start, well, just the only news that I really have, was Iga Swiatek announcing her new coach after parting ways with Wimsa Facet, her former coach of around 2 years. If you guys want to hear my thoughts on why they parted ways, please feel free to go check out the episode that was released last week on that. But for now, I kind of want to just talk about her current coach, which will be Francisco Roig, who was a longtime coach of Rafael Nadal and most recently worked with Emma Raducanu. So Swiatek is going back to training with the Rafael Nadal Academy, and Francisco Roig is one of the coaches working at the academy. And I think it's really interesting because her next tournament will be Stuttgart Tennis Grand Prix, which begins on April 11th. And Swiatek is known as a really strong clay court player. Clay is her strongest surface. It's also her first surface where she won a Grand Slam. And I think coming into the clay season, she will have really high expectations. However, I think sometimes, especially for her, having high expectations doesn't necessarily yield results. For example, last year in Wimbledon, because grass isn't her strongest surface, she came in without any expectations, and she said that during a press conference. And because of her sort of lack of expectations, she went on to win the entire thing. And I think it's really interesting that the coaching change happened before the clay court season, and I'm interested to see if her clay sort of results will be as great as it was in the previous years. However, because of the coaching change, it might not necessarily match up to it. And also the point I want to make is just because she has had so much success previously in the previous years, we don't really know if it's really the coaching change that's making her match her success, or it's just because she's really good on clay.
It is a Sinner sunshine double.
And that is the sound of Hard Rock Stadium when Jannik Sinner won Miami Open, completing his golden swing. Welcome to The Hit. So I kind of want to start off talking about the men's side, and then we'll move on to the Charleston Open. So on the men's side, I want to talk about the Miami Open final. We had Jannik Sinner against Jakub Mensik, with Sinner winning 6-4, 6-4. There really isn't that much to talk about in this match, but I just want to talk about what it means for the clay season. So with Jannik Sinner winning this tournament, there was this really interesting stat that I found. So this tournament, because it's worth 1,000 points, just for a reminder, it's called a Masters on the men's side. So we have the Grand Slam, which is worth 2,000 points, and then the Masters that are worth 1,000 points. So Jannik Sinner has won 17 straight Masters matches, which is an incredible record, and he won 34 straight sets. So just putting that stats out there to show how dominant he really is on the Masters level and what it means for the clay season. So I think it's really interesting because during this time last year, he actually was serving out his drug ban of 3 months. So essentially, he has no points to defend currently. And compared to Alcaraz, who won a lot of tournaments, including like Monte Carlo that's coming up, Carlos has to defend all of those points, whereas because Jannik Sinner didn't play these tournaments, he really doesn't have a result that he has to match up to. So it's much easier for Jannik Sinner to get more points and earn more points because there's no expectations going in. And I think Jannik Sinner also has this really strong desire to be the world number one. I think the desire is stronger for him compared to Carlos Alcaraz. And even in the press conference after the Miami Open, he said specifically that he is calculating the points and figuring out what it takes for him to be the world number one. And I think for Carlos Alcaraz, he really doesn't need the sort of assurance to confirm in his heart that he is the best player. I think he just has the confidence to think that. But I think for Jannik Sinner, even though he is confident, he needs that boost to sort of just, it will be better for him to be the world number one because he will play with more confidence. Whereas I think for Carlos, it doesn't really matter. So I'm really interested to see this sort of back and forth between who will be the number one coming into the French Open. And I think because we haven't gotten a Sinner final yet, by that I mean an Alcaraz versus Sinner final, there's always been some interesting, I don't know, like for example, this tournament, we have Carlos Alcaraz losing really, really early. And in Australia, we had Djokovic who beat Sinner in the quarterfinal. So there's just a lot of interesting players who were able to just pop up and beat one of the big two right now. So I'm interested to see if they will meet in Monte Carlo, which will be the next tournament that's coming up next week. So yeah. Okay, now we'll talk about the women's side. I want to start off with the 500 event in Charleston and the two matches. So the first match was Renata Zarazua, who defeated the 15th seed Hailey Baptiste with the score of 3-6, 6-3, and 6-4. This was a really, really fun match. I will be leaving the link to the highlights in the show notes. It was just really interesting to see how Zarazua used her sort of forehand slice to catch Baptiste off guard. And the last game of this match was incredible. It was a 20-minute last game, and Zarazua finally won on match point number 7. I think it's really interesting to see. I mean, Baptiste is an incredible player, and I think Baptiste is known for her sort of just like effortless power. Whereas Zarazua, I think she does play a scrappy game, which is not a bad thing at all. I mean, whatever it takes for her to win a match. But I think when she's playing against Baptiste, she really made Baptiste frustrated, especially towards the end. I think also just winning on the 7th match point on like in a 20-minute game really shows that she has sort of the mental strength and also the physical strength to maintain that level and to sort of just gain that edge at the end is what made her win this match. And then the other match I want to talk about is Jessica Pegula, who defeated the number 4th seed Iga Swiatek with a score of 6-4, 5-7, 6-3. First, I want to give credit to Swiatek. I think Swiatek is crazily talented. I saw on this post that she really didn't start playing tennis since I think she started playing tennis 5 years ago or something. And Pegula, they've played a few months ago where Pegula won in 2 straight sets. And I really do think Swiatek is such just she's really, really athletic and she's such a clean ball striker. But still, I want to talk about Pegula because clay is not her best surface. I think clay is her worst surface out of clay, grass, and hard court. And so she doesn't really have that much expectations going in despite being the number 1 seed because, as I said, other players such as Madison Keys, Iga Swiatek, all of these talented players are also in the Charleston Open. But Pegula, okay, she played 4 matches so far in this tournament, and all of her matches are 3 sets. And I think just her ability to stay calm and win these 3-set matches and problem solve is truly top class. I think she definitely has one of the best mental games out there, out of everyone on the tour right now. And I feel like a lot of people this season talked about the form of Elena Svitolina, Elena Rybakina, or Arina Sabalenka as the players who are really dominating and just playing really, really great. But I want to talk about Pegula because I think Pegula's had a fantastic season, and I really hope she wins a title. I mean, I know she already has one Masters title, but I think she might have a chance at Wimbledon or even the US Open. I mean, just looking at her record this year, I think it's really impressive. She lost in the semifinal of Brisbane. In Australia, she made it to the semifinal where she lost to the eventual champion Rybakina. In Dubai, she won that tournament. And in Indian Wells, she also lost to Rybakina, Miami Rybakina as well. And in Charleston, she's going to the final where she's playing today against her opponent, who is Yulia Starodubtseva. And I think Pegula definitely has the upper hand in that matchup. So yeah. Okay, now we're going to take a break and come back with the follow-through. Welcome to the follow-through. So as I said, the tournament that's sort of finishing up on a women's side is the Charleston Open, where we have Pegula versus Starodubtseva, and I do have Pegula winning that. It's happening today at 1 p.m. I'm recording this on a Sunday, so in next week's episode, I will be recapping the final. And on the men's side, we have Monte Carlo, which I am extremely, extremely excited about because I really think we deserve a Sinner-ass final, and I really want it to happen. I think on clay too will be such an interesting sort of place for it to happen, just because Jannik Sinner, the last time we saw him play on clay, well, same for everyone, was during the French Open, but just because Jannik Sinner didn't play these tournaments leading up to the French Open, I really want to see how he does. And just because Carlos Alcaraz is also the Monte Carlo defending champion, I want to see if he has necessarily he will be defending his title and feel more pressure because just of the whole situation of Jannik Sinner trying to catch him as the world number one, and he has to defend all of these titles. So yeah, that's going to be a really interesting tournament. And I want to end off with a fun fact. And when I was researching this truly caught me really off guard. So people in the 12th century suffered from swollen and red hands in a game called Jeu de Paume, meaning game of the palm. So this is where instead of having rackets, they hit the ball with their hands, which is such an interesting way to play tennis. And it's so interesting to see how tennis evolved. And it was actually not until the 16th century that rackets were used. I don't know, that was just like a really fun fact. And I was like, it's such an interesting how people just decided to, instead of using rackets, I guess, hit the ball with their hands. But yeah, thank you so much for listening. Subscribe wherever you're listening, rate my show, it really helps a lot. And please vote the poll what your favorite tennis surface is, so clay, grass, or hard court. And if you don't play tennis, just vote on which court you like watching the tennis the most, or which part of the season you like the most, the clay season, the hardcore season, or the grass season. And yeah, comment down or DM me anything you want. I'll be happy to respond back. Let the serves continue, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.